Prime Minister Modi visited the Kargil War Memorial in Diwas to mark the occasion of the 25th anniversary of the Kargil Vijay Diwas. He paid tributes to the brave hearts who fought tooth and nail against Pakistani troops to secure our frontiers. Remembering the martyrs, the Prime Minister called their sacrifice immortal. Apart from this, the Prime Minister emphasized the need for our armed forces to be battle-ready to thwart enemy forces in the future. He hailed reforms in this regard to modernize our forces. Prime Minister Modi stated that the Agniveer scheme is one such example of that. Defending the scheme, Prime Minister Modi stated that, and I quote, the goal of Agniveer scheme is to make the army young and continuously fit for war. Additionally, launching a scathing attack at the opposition, he said, and I quote, this is a sensitive issue related to national security, but unfortunately, some have made it a subject of politics and are spreading a misconception amongst the people. The Congress promptly hit back with party president Mallikarjun Kharge stating that the Prime Minister is indulging in petty politics. Several other Congress leaders echoed this and emphasized upon the party's vow to scrap the scheme. As a heated face-off rages in the political circles, it is important to keep in mind that a battle-ready Bharat is top priority. With hostile forces stationed at our borders on either side, our focus should be towards adopting a nation-first approach. We'll talk about this with our guest. Joining us on the show is Dr. Kaushal K. Mishra, spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party, Colonel Anil Duhoon, spokesperson. BJP also joins us on the show. Major General Rajan Kochar, defense expert, with us on the program as well on this important discussion. Last but not the least, Major General Shashi Asthana, defense expert, also joins us on the show. General Asthana, I'll begin with you. Well, it is always unfortunate, right? No matter who does it, if our forces are politicized and if this, kind of an event is leveraged for all the wrong kind of traction. Do you think that this is not only bad for the people who aspire to defend the country, but it is also detrimental for the people who are already defending our country?
See, politicization of any event of this kind, including the scheme related to the military, is unfortunate and is certainly not warranted. But before I start speaking, I must give a big salute to all the war heroes and the brave hearts who laid down their life in Kargil war, and their families for supporting them, and the countrymen as well as the media for emboldening all of us when we were fighting there. And that time I think the strength of the nation came up, and we have to see Kargil war as a symbol and this occasion also as a symbol of uniting the country, because Kargil war did unite the country, and this was the first war which was seen on television, because before that no war was seen so closely by the entire masses of India. That's one part. Now coming on to the scheme. As far as the scheme is concerned, let's be clear. Irrespective of which party is in power and irrespective of who makes the scheme, there is no scheme which is perfect in this world. Every time whenever a scheme is made, you have to let the scheme roll over, gain some experience, and thereafter it needs reforms. And if it is a scheme as big as the recruitment of the defense forces. So therefore, presuming that the scheme, everything is right, that also is maybe a little too far-fetched, and presuming that reforms are, and the need for reforms is certainly there. So therefore, considering that, there are certain pros and cons, both. Now let me talk about the pros part of it. I have been to my unit. I have seen these Agniveers performing and all kinds of activities they are performing and performing very well. The level of, shall I say, the competitiveness to remain and become permanent is certainly increasing the efficiency level, number one. Number two, the scheme as was envisaged, that we will have 17.5 years boys joining it. 4 years was the period, was the gap, and then in these 4 years he gains a lot of expertise, and he still joins back the society in a manner that he is not overage for any other recruitment, and he has gained experience, some money and some education. Now, that was the basic ethos. And of course, since we are turning over a large number of young guys, so relatively the age will come down. Now, if you see these pros, there are certain other concerns as well. Now, the concerns is that when you are looking at a long term, initially, of course, a smaller group merged with a bigger experienced group in the army doesn't make too much of a difference as it is today. But after about 8-9 years, you require experience because the tanks cannot fire without a requisite amount of experience with the tank. Similarly, the missiles, 1 crore missile, obviously one Agniveer with this much of training may not be able to fire. So therefore, the requirement is to reform the retention percentage, which I believe the government is looking into it. And I am sure a committee has also been formed. Then there are other anomalies that 2 people dying in the similar circumstances must get similar compensation. So that I think is also being looked into. Also, let me also give you a little bit of experience behind. See, earlier we have short service commission for the officers. It was also after 5 years the officer was supposed to go back. He was not getting any pension. And the retention percentage was low. As we gained experience, the retention percentage increased. And today, nobody talks about the short service commission officers because most of them who want to get into are certainly there. And those who, anybody who is leaving, either he is unfit or he himself doesn't want or he is looking for a better job. So that scheme has settled. Like this scheme also needs to be reformed. And people who are trying to say or that rollback, now rollback I don't think has got its own problems. So there are pros and cons there as well, because there will be enough number of guys who will go to court that what was my fault that I enrolled in this scheme, etc., etc. So I think all schemes have the pros and cons, and I think reformation is certainly required, and at the same time, which is in progress, I am given to understand, and we will have to wait and see. Like so many APFs have said that okay, we will give vacancies. Now earlier the experience has been bad because short service commission did not get those vacancies which were promised by CAPF. Now if a law is passed, which seems to be the case, then I'm sure these Agniveers will get adjusted. And once the first lot of Agniveer gets adjusted and gets all these opportunities, I think their concerns and the uncertainty will get settled. So all in all, I think it does need reforms, but certainly it needs to be tried, and commenting or condemning it before trying it may not be appropriate.
All right. Colonel Anil Duhun, Congress spokesperson, is also with us on the program. Colonel Duhun, I hope you can hear me, sir.
Yeah, I can hear.
So what do you predominantly feel is wrong with the Agniveer scheme? You know, there's been a constant demand by the opposition that this needs to be scrapped, whereas the BJP and the central government, of course, is of the opinion that this is the safety and security of the nation. It should not be trifled with. This is a well thought out scheme which is beneficial at a number of levels and stratas.
Good evening to you, and good evening to all the viewers and listeners. Good evening to both the journalists here and the spokesperson from BJP. At the outset, let me salute to all the soldiers who have fallen in war on Kargil, and today is the 25th anniversary for that. Hats off to them for their bravery, great determination, valor. The country is indebted to them, there's no doubt about it, and we all feel very proud of our soldiers who could not return home. And those who returned, a big salute to them as well. Coming to the Agnipath scheme, well, imagine on a somber moment like paying tributes to the fallen soldiers in Kargil, if the Honorable Prime Minister has to speak about Agnipath scheme, then who is politicizing this scheme? Who is politicizing this concept? That was a very somber moment. That was a moment where we were paying respects to our fallen soldiers, or the soldiers who were killed in action, the soldiers who gave everything, including their life, for the nation. So the politicizing of this Agnipath is not by the opposition or by the nation. It has been politicized by our Honorable Prime Minister himself. Coming on to what is wrong with the Agnipath scheme. Well, nothing much is right about this scheme, honestly. For the reason simple as that, even General Asthana said that you can't trust a Agniveer with 4, 6, 7 years of service to be handling a missile. And imagine a situation if Rafale has to be handled by a Agniveer after 4, 5, 6 years. Will the pilot even let the Agniveer come close to Rafale? So the point is not of finding faults with the scheme. The point is, was it implemented after doing a pilot, after taking feedback from all the stakeholders? Did all that happen? Unfortunately, none of those things have happened. And so much so, the then Chief of the Army Staff, General Naravne, like he was writing a book, his publishing and printing of that book was stopped. Why? Why was that stopped? And General Naravne did not beat around the bush. He said that it was board from blue. So what I'm trying to say is, there is nothing much great about this Agnipath scheme. Yes, had they deliberated upon this scheme as such with the stakeholders, it would have turned out to be a much better scheme than what it is now. In the present form, this scheme needs to be scrapped. And imagine all those boys who are just waiting to join. What is their fault? Why should those 1.5 lakh of students, of young boys, why should they be suffering? Because the government has changed its policy. Is it their fault? Was it their fault? Will it be their fault at all? So my humble submission to the government through the BJP spokesperson here is that we must be sensitive to our youngsters, to our young generation, and this scheme has got nothing great. Let me tell you, it's got nothing great in it. It needs to be scrapped.
All right, let me take a response from Dr. Kaushal K. Mishra, BJP spokesperson, on what you have said as well. Dr. Mishra, this scheme needs to be scrapped. It is not well thought out. It does not have inputs or involvement of some of the stakeholders, which usually are a part of these deliberations, and that is why it will not work. Your thoughts and response?
First of all, my tribute to those soldiers who involved in Kargil, and Colonel Anil has said many things, and many response already has been given by General Asthana, and probably Agniveer is such. Colonel Anil was telling that the Pradhan Mantri was talking about Agniveer during the Kargil. He was not talking about Agniveer. He was talking to an army event for the army. Agniveer is not, now it is a part of army only. It is well adopted. They got recruited, and I think discussing army personnel, army policy in the army is not a politics. Politics on any national security issue, army per se should not be done by anybody, whether the party in power or party in opposition. And it's not the recommendation of any party. It is actually the well thought process, and probably the recommendation by army experts only. Then only it got recommended, and I think got implemented. What I know about that, the General Raina, who was in, I think all the three are from the army, so they are knowing much better than me. I am just throwing them a little bit light on that. General Raina, probably he was in 1977 to 95 to 97, and in 1989 also, the army has given some suggestion, like implementing such a policy in which the youngster can be recruited in the army for short duration. And after the Kargil war, the recommendation of the two things, one is to bring the CDS, and second is Agniveer scheme. I know you people know much better than me. What I am telling, what I know. And probably the Subramaniam committee have recommended all these things, and on the recommendation of army itself, this Agniveer got approval from the government. Yes, as General Asthana was saying, that every policy has got certain shortcoming and certain advantages. We can discuss on both the way, and it is not the day, and it is not such a thing on which we should do much leg pulling on each other, even as a political party. In my opinion, every policy get reformed day by day, as our constitution get reformed day by day by amendment and everything. In my opinion, if we bring something new, there are certain things which are criticized, there are certain advantages and certain disadvantages. Agniveer has got the same thing, and every suggestion is welcome. And
but they're saying that it has more disadvantages than advantages.
I can't say which is who is correct. I think the scheme got implemented by the government, by the Pradhan Mantri ji, on the recommendation of army itself. I think no discussion should happen on this thing. Yes, any suggestion, anything which can make it better should be invited, and everything can be changed day by day. Yes, every policy needs changes, and every suggestion is welcome. I think that is a part of any policy.
All right. Okay.
Now you have, now just 10 seconds more. Now almost many state government coming forward for giving them preferences, reservations, quotas for the Agniveer to the police force, PSC, security forces, CRPF, CISF, Assam Rifles. So now probably the scheme is getting more mature and developed, and probably in near future, when 4 years get completed of the first lot, then we will see how the policy is acting. And when the near future, we should be ready on the two front war. One is China, one is Pakistan. And if that comes, that is the main examination of this scheme as well as what the policy is. But I think every suggestion is welcome, and my humble request to everyone, we should not do any politics. This is such an issue which should be left to our army, to the expert. And last thing, before implementing this, we have studied, I think army has studied more than 135 countries army plan and progress, and Agniveer like schemes are there in the USA, Europe, France, Germany and Australia to bring down the age. Average age of Indian soldier is 32 years plus, but in 32 years, while in US and all the developed country, it is 26 years. This is what I feel, and without harming to sentiments of anybody, any policy which is good for our nation should be implemented.
Let's get a take from General Rajan Kochar as well. General Kochar, what do you make of this back and forth that is going on between the opposition and the central government when it comes to Agniveer? Let's also not forget, General Kochar, that any reboot, any tweak, any disruption of in terms of our deterrence and in terms of our safety and security is also to be kept in mind if you're going to be implementing such big changes in the army and the defense forces. What's your take on this, and where do you stand on this back and forth and this tug of war which is going on, whether to have Agniveer or to scrap it, or perhaps have more stakeholders come in and analyze whether there are areas which perhaps were not looked into?
Thank you, Vineet, for inviting me to this program. See, you have to understand what is your threat perception today, and what is the strength of the Indian Army you are looking at. We have an army of approximately 12 lakhs. You stopped recruitment for 3 years. You created a deficiency of almost 1.8 lakhs into the Indian Army. And today, we have 15,000 square kilometers of land borders and 7,500 square kilometers of our maritime borders. And out of this 15,000 square kilometers, 10,000 square kilometers is a contested border. There is no other country in the world who has two hostile neighbors on the borders like India has. We have China and we have Pakistan, and both are nuclear powers. So we have to first understand what is the strength of the army we are looking at. Do we want to reduce the strength, or we want to increase the strength? I would request the government to come out with a clear-cut manpower policy stating what is their ultimate aim. Are they wanting to increase the army, the strength of the armed forces, or they are wanting to decrease the strength of the armed forces? When you launch a scheme like Agniveer, after stopping recruitment for 3 years, you should be having an aim in mind that with this scheme, I'll be able to make up the shortfalls and also increase the strength of the forces, because if you see what has happened in Rajouri and Poonch, and we are crying for troops on ground and boots on ground, and we are not having that kind of a strength available in the army. We have to relocate or weaken our defenses somewhere else. So if that is the case, I don't think there should be a policy to reduce the strength. For in terms of statistics, we have 60,000 soldiers retiring every year, and we have only 44,000 Agniveers being recruited. So you have already started a deficiency in your recruitment process. So what do you ultimately want? You want to reduce the forces from 12 lakhs to 10 lakhs? Then what happens to your threat perception in the times to come when you're going to have 2.5 front? So that is my first point, that whenever you make a policy, please see what are your threats and what kind of manpower you are looking at for the field army. Second point, the controversy part of it. See, there are 3 stakeholders in Agniveer. One is the government, one is the armed forces, and one is the Agniveer. Any scheme which addresses the aspirations of all the 3 stakeholders will be a success. So if you review this Agniveer scheme, the government is very happy. The armed forces also seem to be happy. But the Agniveers don't seem to be happy, because a scheme has to be thought out 360 degrees, right from the induction or the recruitment and the process in the army and the exit policy. Now, looking at the exit policy, Vineet, I was surprised that respective DGPs of the CIPF were giving video statements. Why not a joint press conference where all the DGPs of all the BSF, CRPF, and ITBP, everybody is coming on place and saying that how much Agniveers are you going to absorb? See, after 4 years, there will be 33,000 Agniveers which will have to be offered a job. So I want in absolute terms all these DGPs to say that I will take 8,000, I will take 6,000, I will take 5,000, because ultimately what is happening in the army is we are looking or we are evaluating an Agniveer from his physical standards. We are not evaluating him from his mental standards. And that is why we have had a couple of suicides recently. We have to look at why these suicides are taking place. And for example, I'll give you, if you just give me another about 40 seconds, a small example I will give you. As soon as an Agniveer joins the unit, supposing he comes late for a fallen or his turnout is bad, he is given a punishment, say 7 days extra duty. It gets entered into his record as a blacking entry. Now this Agniveer, who has spent only 6 months time in the unit, he has another 3 years to go. So what is going in his mind now is that I am not going to be retained, because I have already been disciplined case and I have absolutely no chances. So that 3 years of his service in that unit, he is not going to give his 100%. We have to look at the psychological aspects of Agniveer. And why I am saying this, because I have done a PhD in emotional intelligence. I have done a lot of research on this. We have to look at the minds of the Agniveer, and we have to see that is he going to perform in the unit, and why these suicides are taking place. And what is actually weighing on his mind is, in the last year of his service, he is not sure whether he will be retained or not, and he is also not sure whether he will get a job or not. So we have to make that aspect absolutely clear in terms of a policy, in the terms of a law in the parliament, saying that all these Agniveers who are going to leave the armed forces are going to get absorbed into a government job. If we can make that statement today, Vineet, I think there will be no controversy on this scheme, because the army, 6 months of training, and Jal Asthana will actually bear with me, and he has made a mention that his unit, he has seen the Agniveers and they are absolutely fine. So I think
all right, sir.
of training is absolutely fine, but we have to look at the other aspects if we want this scheme to carry on.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.